This report is about the electricity access crisis in the countries of sub-Saharan Africa, where large parts of the population don't have access to modern forms of electricity. But most importantly, this report tries to describe how renewable energy technologies, backed up by the right amounts of private financing and investment, can actually be a viable solution to the problem. There are three main conclusions to this report, three recommendations to policymakers. The first one is renewable energy technologies, to be viable, need to be provided with a level playing field with conventional energy technologies. The second recommendation is that energy markets in sub-Saharan Africa need to be accessible to private sector entities so that they can bring into those markets their innovation and the skills that they have. And the third area of recommendation is that the persistent investment risks that characterize the markets in sub-Saharan Africa need to be mitigated by policymakers and the international community. The big picture is that we know since 2006, since the Stern Review, that addressing and mitigating climate change makes sense to the world economically. We know since the Green Economy report of UNEP that deploying and upscaling sustainable energy technologies in developing countries makes sense to these developing countries. And this report fills the gap of moving from knowing and understanding that to actually doing it, and to understanding what is needed for the private sector to start developing the infrastructure on the ground and critically providing the financing for it. My response is that there is no real alternative to mobilizing private capital and involving the private sector in addressing this challenge, because A, the investment required, the billions of dollars, are not within the capacity at the moment of governments and national budgets. So the private sector needs to step in and provide an investment, but it's not only about money. B, the private sector needs to bring to the table the skills that it has, as well as the technologies and the expertise in this area, so that we can implement the solutions. We're not saying that the private sector is a silver bullet to the problem. We're saying that policymakers need to consider the private sector as a critical piece of the puzzle that needs to be a holistic answer what is a very complex problem.